Would limiting the age of the president to 65 be something you'd support? Why or why not? Anyway, you cut it. A shitty system will produce shitty politicians. Ranked choice voting, in my opinion, is the law that would best reform our political entire system. Why stop at the presidency? How about for all elected officials? I think the US should implement a ranked choice voting system. I think that will have a much bigger impact on our political system. The president sets the precedent. 65 is when it's time for people to retire. Sit down. Make room. Live out your days in peace. Set that tone for the American people. There are some senior politicians who are substantially older than 65 who are incredibly sharp and seriously paying attention to the concerns of their constituents. There are politicians and justices under 65 who are completely out of touch and prioritizing their own interests. So I don't think capping age will make any kind of meaningful change. The bigger issues are that the current two-party system, electoral college, gerrymandered districts, and constraints on voting rights in black and low-income communities have resulted in politicians who are not elected by the population majority, on top of people in office who don't represent the majority. The two-party system lowers the quality of the available candidates, which in turn lowers voter turnout because neither option are particularly appealing. I think something like France has, where all politicians are in the same primary and then the top two are elected, would result in better presidential options. You could then potentially have a libertarian candidate running against a Democratic candidate with a viable chance of winning, or a no-party candidate running against a Republican, or any number of combinations. The mayors in my city don't affiliate with any party, and honestly it's refreshing. It's like having someone competent in charge without any political drama. Yes. Absolutely. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are way too old to be president. So was Reagan when he ran 40-plus years ago. Hell, I'd even go further and cap the ages for all elected officials at 65. Yeah. Even arguments about mental fitness aside, I think we should limit to candidates who would at least be reasonably expected to spend a couple decades in whatever world they create. Edit. By the teats of Thor. This was apparently the most upvoted comment on June 9 of 2022. Reddit sent me a little badge over it. All politicians should fuck off the second they hit retirement age. Those who would hit it during their term shouldn't be allowed to run for office. Yes, I would. And if you need to know why, just look at Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Dianne Feinstein, to name a few. This country has way too many geriatrics running it. I would support it. Not only for the obvious issue of old people have mental health decline, and the debate of mental disorders like dementia, but a generational thing too. People who are 65 and up live totally different lives than me at 26, even if we live generally in the same or similar location, financial status, and social groups. Some of these politicians say they worked at McDonald's when in college too, and bought a house and paid for their education at just $2 an hour. In 1960, $2 had the same buying power as $18. That's more than my previous factory job, which was just $16 an hour. How do you explain that to them? Even Bernie wants a $1.15 minutes wage, which is not even a living wage anymore. I don't see how we could determine that 65 is the magic number for such a cutoff. People age at different rates. There are folks with dementia in their 40s, and some 90-year-olds are still sharp as a needle. The better question to discuss is how to fix the way the executive is chosen. Is there a way to do this That would tend to yield better executives and stop putting partisan hacks in office? I am going to be the unpopular opinion here. I think having an age limit really does take away experienced candidates who have dedicated their lives to public service. While the majority of those people don't actually run for office, I think we do underplay how important experience and wisdom is important for a leader. Nelson Mandela was 75 when he was elected president. I have had professors in college who were so intelligent, compassionate, and overall good people who were over the age of 65. I know that the majority of people who run for president or who are in politics don't fit that narrative, but I think it's still important to keep that door open. Feels like something voters should be able to decide for themselves. Absolutely, limit 4 terms in the House. 2 terms in the Senate. If you're running for president, you must be 65 or younger when your term starts to be eligible. Add in ranked choice. Public funding of elections with 0 private donations allowed. Reform the Senate so that states are guaranteed 2 senators but can up to 10 based on population. We need more politicians who actually want to improve the systems we have rather than line their own pockets with money. We fucking can't though, because the 2 candidates that actually mean much in the elections suck. I don't care about age. Only cognitive ability. There are plenty of 65 plus who are mentally sharp and carry a wealth of experience. I would maybe support cognitive exams for all candidates. But the process could easily be corrupted. Ultimately, I think voters should be able to vote for whoever they choose and make their own determination about mental fitness. And candidates ought to do the right thing and step down if their mental abilities have been compromised. Nah, I just want term limits across the board. I don't like old people making decisions that play out over decades, but I also don't like saying somebody can't do something strictly because they're old. They might be the best person, but we never get the best person for president. The 2-party system is broke. So age limit on presidency doesn't really matter. They'll find some other garbage person to put up there that'll keep the status quo going. But screw this 30+ years in Congress nonsense. Maybe 70 and it should apply to Congress. We should not have people with dementia running the country. No. I'd welcome some sort of aptitude test. But restrictions based on age, both young and old, seem dumb to me. Gotta be at least 35 to be president. Seems absurd we don't have an end cap. All politicians should get axed at 60. I'm guessing limited due to the speed of time and knowledge on has to process these days. The president isn't the main problem. The main problem is Congress. Then the president. Term limits for everything appointed or elected, including the Supreme Court. I'd set the age limit at 70. But if someone is elected or appointed at 69, their term is a single year. So as an example, the presidency has a 2-term limit of 4 years apiece. Don't change that. Congressional terms are 2 years. So set a limit of 4 to 5 terms. Ish. Supreme Court. Maybe set terms of 5 years apiece. With a limit of 3 terms, we don't need a government with dynasties of inertia, etc. I love the responses this is getting. Yay, actual discussion. What we have right now is inherently flawed and undemocratic, with large swaths of our representatives not effectively representing much beyond their own political ideology, and, in various cases, representing their monetary sources rather than their constituents. The above is a pipe dream. Of course. But there's got to be something better. I don't know. I don't like that we're run by a bunch of fossils either. But I don't know if a hard limit at an arbitrary age for all people is really going to work out in reality. No. It's not age. It's corruption. Get rid of privately funded campaigns and lobbying. Period. End of discussion. This shit is just a distraction every time it's brought up to get the age brackets pissed at each other. Presidents should be 35 to 40 when elected, at least 6 foot in height, and trained in javelin throwing. Yes. My grandpa can't even remember the last time he shit, let alone what global conflicts the US is currently involved in. We need an age limit of 70. Term limits for Congress and to do away with the Electoral College. Let the popular vote decide the president. It's neither liberal nor progressive to support ageism. If you want to fix politics, criminalize accepting special interest money. Criminalize financial investment above and beyond 401 kiloseconds (IRA)s index funds during terms. Institute term limits. Decrease the election cycle to a 6-month period. And mandate 100% transparency in existing political beliefs, financial investments, and political goals. Further, like any job, a mid-year and annual review are required. You must report to the voters why you've failed in a campaign promise, and how you can resolve that moving forward. Finally, bi-weekly interviews are required, with questions fielded not from the press exclusively but from voters. I absolutely would support an age limit, which should be no higher than 70. This is no more ageist than the age 35 minimum is ageism. There are several careers where mandatory retirement ages exist, like pilots and surgeons. To those who might say that surgeons and pilots have lives in their hands, the president has hundreds of millions more. Even US diplomats have mandatory retirement ages. If someone is too old to go talk to foreign leaders in other countries, then they are too damned old to be our leader over here. Edit. Here's a screenshot because the link was wordy. Remember, the bags of dust that pass the laws that set mandatory retirement ages like this conveniently leave their dusty old asses out of the equation. I think this is a valid point. However, a system that essentially monitors all national politicians and their actual spending and partners' spending would be a better fix. I'm fine with paying a senator or congressman $1 million a year with extra to account for children, along with a retirement that is substantial, if it means that he or she cannot have any investments or outside income. Taking the money out of politics would help take the age out of it too. FBI special agents are required to retire at 57. And commercial airline pilots can't fly solo after age 60 and must retire at 65. Can any of those people do more damage than a senile POTUS with the nuclear launch codes? I am absolutely astonished at the number of people who are saying yes. The best person for the job should be in that position, regardless of age. I prefer insisting on a cognitive exam. Why? My great-grandfather practiced law until he was 96. He was sharp as a tack and still winning case. So he was in demand. He died at 99. He was still mentally sharp, but by that time he was physically frail. Nah. Don't tell me who I can vote for. Yes, why? Well, for example, air traffic controllers are forced to retire well before 65. https www.faa.gov/jobs/employment_information/benefits/CSRS/. Are they still going to be establishment hacks and handmaidens for the wealthy and corporations? Because their age kinda doesn't matter unless we end the corruption. I think all political positions should have a cap of 60 and then also forced to retire at 60